Okay, welcome everyone to the Eagle Mountain City Planning Commission work session for February 24th, 2026. The time is 5:31. We'll go ahead and get started. We've got two items in our work session here. The first one is a setback exception item. Let's see, who has this one?
Okay, so this one is by an applicant, Kimberly Eakins. She is here with us. She is seeking a setback exception on her property, which is currently zoned Business Park Light Industrial. The existing setbacks for that are 25 feet in the front, 20 in the rear, and 50 on the sides. Her property is less than an acre, so the 50-foot side setbacks are pretty difficult to work with. The existing easements, which if we're considering an exception, would be to keep them over those easements, is 10 in the front, 15 in the rear, which important to note as well as for a future access road, private, and then 10 on the street side and 5 on the interior side. She's also in the Sweetwater Industrial Overlay Zone, which allows Planning Commission and Council to approve setback exceptions. And this is an overview of the location of her property. So she's down south of City Center on Belladonna, if you know where Salt City Fitness is. She's right down the street from there. And Salt City Fitness themselves, they're a similarly sized lot, same overlay, same zone, very similar setbacks. They received approval in 2022 with a 10-foot interior side setback, which is relevant. And looking at this one, these are the two properties side by side. So you can see how close that one building is, the Salt City Fitness is, to the interior side. And so she's kind of looking to have her setbacks a little bit more friendly to building on her lot, because right now it's pretty difficult. And she's willing to speak as well. She is looking for the most lenient setbacks that Planning Commission and Council are willing to offer. This is the current site plan that she's provided to us as a rough estimate. It's not complete by any means. She'll need additional parking. But this is the general gist. So you can see her lot is 148 feet wide and about 257 long. And on that left-hand side, there is a street there. So she's showing 10 feet of landscaping in the front and on the street side as well.
Sorry, what zone is this in again? I missed that.
Industrial.
Industrial, okay.
Okay, any questions for staff? Now we invite the applicant up if you'd like to say anything. If you don't mind stating your name, please.
I'm Kim Eakins. My husband, Justin.
Yeah, hi. So we own wholesale vinyl fence, and that's what we're hoping to do here, is to get the trucks in and out of the property without having them turn around inside the property. A lot smaller than what we wanted, but it was in our price range, so we were able to do it with our small business and try to get something up and running. We were just unaware of the setbacks for it being a corner lot was a little different than what we thought originally. We're trying to get it to where we can just have them pull in and out the most efficient way and see where we can put our building. So
There's supposed to be an access alleyway on the back of the property in the future, and so to go straight back is the
and
plan.
that's what Mickey talked about, the private road in the back eventually. That's what we're hoping to use. But we're trying to kind of pin down where we can put the building so we can get that maybe ordered once we can figure out a size and where it's going to work the best for us.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Hess?
Yeah, so the zone requires the 50-foot side yard setback, correct, based on the zone?
Yes.
Which of course this lot would be, well, I mean, it would be difficult to build that with the size of that lot. So there is precedent in the same area where those setbacks have been allowed to be reduced. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what are the precedents that might be applied from those previous decisions to this lot, whether it's the front, the side, and the rear, that the applicant should or that we should keep in mind?
The primary portion is the aesthetics, the landscaping portion. Do we want to keep the landscaping? We don't require any side setbacks for industrial where the bordering is also industrial. And in this case, her interior lot is up against another one that is industrial. And then keeping in mind that there's the rear access in the back as well,
Yeah.
which is going to be very useful for the purposes that they're proposing.
Okay. Since they are on a corner lot in the industrial, is there side on the access road? Is that considered front or side yard setback?
The front would be where the building is
Okay.
fronted, so it's currently addressed for Belladonna Drive.
Okay.
But that could change if they wanted to. I'm not sure
Okay.
what the name of the other one is.
It's not there yet. She's just in the planning phases.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so the existing road is there, the north-south road, right? That access
Yeah.
road right there.
It's there.
And so, in your sketch, you show a 15, these are trying to summarize what was provided to you from staff as far as setbacks from buildings?
Yeah, I was trying to
Front-
make sense of how I could
Okay.
use it.
Okay, and then, of course, parking is, there's still some discussion on what to do for parking, and it looks like there's a possible up to 40 to 50-foot wide area adjacent to the side of the other lot that is intended to be a kind of a drive-through for trucks, right? Okay. I don't really have any, other than knowing that it looks like regardless of the size of the building, there will have to be some accommodation or a proposal for setback requirements. And so I would just generally say there's, not that we always like to hang our hat on the precedent that's on the neighbor, because of course that can perpetuate some problems. But in this case, I think it would be a good place to start considering the other circumstances.
Thank you. Commissioner Lane?
So it's been said that the road that's gonna run behind it, that's not done yet. Do we know or have any idea of how wide or large that road will be? Is it gonna be a standard size road or is it just gonna be an alleyway?
I believe it's platted to be 30 feet wide. There's a 15-foot access easement on the property that she has, and then on the other side of that, there's another 15-foot, so
Okay.
30 feet.
And then also, the existing property that we're comparing this to, that one, we said that there were adjustments made to their setbacks, that their building sits essentially very closely to what their building would sit on their property, or?
Depending on how she decides to build the building, yes. This was just a very good example of how close you could get and kind of modify with those setbacks, and kind of provides that visual.
Okay. On that note, I do just want to say, oddly enough, I just happened to be at this building for a Super Bowl party. And as far as like the aesthetics from the street and as far as the landscaping goes and as far as just like the overall look of it, it still is very, very nice. And at no point when I was pulling up did I go, oh my gosh, this is weird. It's really close to the road. It's whatever. It's aesthetically and landscape wise, it's very, very nice. Just wanted to say that.
Okay, any more questions for them? Okay, thank you.
I did
Yeah,
have one
go ahead.
question. So does that help us then, Rod, that you were saying if we make the front the other road, is that an option? Would that be better? Does that change the offsets for front and side?
You're talking about where you put your,
So instead of Belladonna, the other road?
well, that would, I don't know if that would be the best solution. It seems like the main entrances for these businesses are addressed to the Belladonna, so I would probably keep it that way. I think there's clearly some allowance and flexibility to accommodate a different setback based on the code, based on, from the lot size and what has been done previously. So I think there's some allowance there that I think, we would support as at least I would support, as a recommendation. But, for now, I think it looks like it's a pretty good place to start. I think you made some good assumptions and then continue to work with staff on an application.
Okay.
Okay, is this the time then I can also ask a landscaping question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So on the right side of the property, there's another industrial property, and we would like to put a fence up, but I was told that there would have to be like 10 feet of landscaping. But that would be right where trucks are going, and they would be driving over the landscaping. So I was wondering if there's anything we could do to not require that?
Yeah, Brandon, do you want to jump in on that one?
Can you say that one more? I think, I didn't hear the very end of it, but if I remember correctly, let me say this. We did talk a little bit as a staff this morning about this issue, and if I remember correctly, it's a landscape issue in the number of plants, is that right?
Well, I was told we would have to have 10 feet of landscaping along the property line.
Oh, okay.
And that would take 10 feet away of like where trucks can drive. And so I just wondered if we could have any kind of allowance to not have 10 feet of landscaping on that property line.
I think she'd have to pursue a variance.
That's what, if it's quantitative, you can request a variance.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other thoughts from the commission? Personally, I'm okay with modifying setbacks here. It is the light industrial area, like Commissioner Lane said. Some of them look good right there, and it's not designed necessarily for the best of looks based on like the way the buildings are designed either, right? We allow some flexibility there, different materials, because it is an industrial area. And then maybe we should revisit some of that code with the landscaping between lots, because if it is a light industrial area, I mean, you've got warehouse next to warehouse next to warehouse. Do we need tons of trees and stuff? So that's worth revisiting as well. But yeah, personally, I'm amenable to changing up a little bit there. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Brandon.
I was just gonna say, as we talked this morning about this property, we want to perhaps, and Councilor Clark's in the back, but we may want to look at the setbacks for the Sweetwater zone, especially for these smaller lots, and see if there's some kind of code change that might be, something to look at and consider, so. That's, if you've got 25 and 50-foot setbacks on a 1 acre lot, it really takes away a lot of the usable land, so.
Yeah, just to chime in there, I agree completely that I think as much as we can come up with a consistent plan that can be applied across these smaller lots, that seems like a better option than sort of the one-off. I mean, I'm in favor of a one-off if we need to, but I think we could come up with a better plan.
Yeah, and anything to get new small businesses out here, that's exciting. We always love it. Yeah, appreciate, we are excited to have you here. Okay, anything else on this item? Okay, we'll move on to our next item, the discussion of the future land use map. Brandon, we'll turn it to you.
Thank you. We have Erica from GSBS here, who's been really great at helping us prepare this map. We've gone through public events where we've reached out to the public and invited them. We've invited developers, been through quite a bit to get this prepared, and it's been going on since the end of summer of 2024. And so, anyway, we have got some good feedback, and recently took it to the council just in a discussion setting like this, and got some pretty good, I think the council liked what they saw. So generally speaking, there may be a few little tweaks here and there, but we just want to bring it to you now after it's been looked at by council. And so we have that, bringing that before you. I'll let Erica kind of present that to you, and I'll jump in as needed. And so I'll just let her take it away.
Perfect. Thanks, Brandon. Yes, hi, my name is Erica Shimleski. I've met, I think, most everyone here way back when. But we've really been on a journey with this future land use map. And so I quickly just want to go over a brief overview of kind of where we were and why we are where we are today. And then I'm going to kind of layer on our land uses onto our map, and then we'll quickly go over designations. And then I'll also show one thing that we're calling a vision map, and then we'll be on our way. So I know that you all here know, but for those in the room who might not know, the future land use map is a strategic long-term vision for how land in the city is going to be developed in the future. And so it's really like a decision-making document. And so it's really comprised of land use categories and their general locations. It is not going to replace a zoning map. A zoning map is regulatory. a future land use map is visionary. So we're really looking at what would we like to see in the future and what signals are we sending. And we went through quite a few options with this. We talked with everyone, we looked at what we wanted to do, and we actually came back in June of 2025 with a full future land use map, and it brought up some issues that City Council was facing, and a lot of it was this thought of, this is a relatively new city, there's some utility work that hasn't been worked out yet, and so our map, as big as Eagle Mountain is, our future land use map is looking even 75 years into the future, and it's really hard to figure out where the city is going to be, much less 15 years from now. And so what we ended up doing was taking a step back and actually looking at this map through a 10-year focus. And so what we ended up doing was we wiped the entire slate clean, and I'll show you this on the map and we'll layer this on. And then we added on anything that exists currently. Then we looked at all of the planned MDA areas as they've been agreed to. So we're gonna add that on. Then we're going to look at near-term opportunity areas. That's stuff that Evan's already working on, stuff that's kind of already in motion. That's things that are operating on a less than 5-year time frame to actually happen in the city. And then we're gonna look at longer-term opportunity areas, which are like 5 to 10 years. So you will see that a good amount of your map is going to remain in this kind of agricultural green. That does not mean that it's looking at agriculture forever. It does not even really mean agriculture. It's just that most likely nothing is going to come of it in the next 10 years. And you'll do your next general plan update in around 5 to 7 years because things are happening so rapidly. So let me transition over. I believe I do this. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so here is our just basic map of the city. We show everything in agriculture here. And so what we're going to end up doing is putting on everything that exists. So your city as it exists today looks like this. With all of the land use agreements that you have, when those come in, it will look like this. And so we see that a good amount of the city is already starting to fill up. And to just show the difference between the two, I'll add this little kind of overlay on. So this is pretty telling of what's to come in your city. And these have already been in the works for a long time. So then we looked at near-term opportunity areas. Once again, those are your kind of 0 to 5 year opportunity areas. And so it looks like that kind of going on. And then we wanted to lay on some future term opportunity areas. And so we really see some additional industrial in the southern area and really just along Eagle Mountain Corridor, looking at some commercial in that area. That's probably not gonna come within 10 years, but we really wanted to kind of keep it in holding so that housing doesn't come there. And so you're able to kind of use that highway for kind of the uses that work with a highway. And so this is where we really find that in a 10-year time frame, this is really what can happen in the city. So what we ended up talking about with City Council is that there's some wish list items that we still want to see in the city. And even though it might not make sense to show it on the future land use map because they're not exactly land use designations or they're or they're just a little different. We don't want to put down exactly where something's going to go where we don't really know. We ended up creating this vision map. And I'll zoom in. But what we ended up doing here was kind of creating this map with these little icons of, you know, if a developer were to come and look at what does Eagle Mountain want to see in their city, they'd be able to see this map. And so we're looking at, you know, here, these are some like education campuses. We'd like to see some schools in this area. Here around your new town center, we do see, we do want to see some kind of elements that are the same as your land use designations, but maybe they have a little bit more of those architectural standards that you just implemented. Maybe they look a little different because they're so near the town center. So we added that on. We looked at healthcare campuses. We looked at a rodeo ground. We also added in here some resort type. And so this could be a myriad of different land use designations, which is why it's not on your future land use map. But we want to see some kind of a resort use or amenity somewhere. Same thing with the mountain recreation district that we have here. That could take on a myriad of different land use designations, but the overarching theme that we want to make sure is that there's trails, that there's connection to the mountains, that there's open space, that there's that recreation element in there. And so this vision map looks further out than 10 years. You know, we added in where potential interchanges for the new highway are going to go, knowing that in 10 years, it's not going to be built down to here and here. But it's something for the city to keep in mind and developers to be keeping in mind as they're making their way through MDA agreements here. And so it might not make sense to put single-family housing right here. It might make sense to move that further out. And so we really think that with this vision map and this future land use map, we're able to take a more calculated approach to future land use mapping and really make sure that we're not just putting big swaths of generalized land use all across the city, and that we're taking a more methodical way to actually plan your city. Before I move on, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have questions, but I want to find the right time to ask them, but so. I don't know if right now is a good time.
I'm going to move on to land use designations
Yeah,
next. So you have anything that
yes.
pertains to the map?
I have
Let's-
several comments on
let's go
legibility
now.
of the map.
Great.
And content, yeah.
Great.
Eric, I'll just say really quick, one thing that I guess is important to note. You'll remember Planning Commission last year, we completed a water use and preservation plan. And so that was done at the same time this was prepared. And so that a lot of this work was done with that plan in mind.
Yes, thank you. Planning Commissioner, would you like to ask your question?
Do you want me to ask questions on the legibility of the map or do you want to present your designated areas first? Because I
Okay.
have comments on that,
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. All right. So I will say that this map, we've just housed it on this GIS platform. And so this is to kind of show that layering technique. We do plan on actually getting PDF maps to you, and we're actually going to zoom them into 3 different regions of the map, as well as having a more generalized map so that it's legible. And so let me just.
The other thing I'll say too is we have a GIS tool that the public can use, and we also provide a PDF map. But if I am trying to evaluate a property I really don't use the PDF map that much. We do provide it, but the truth is, a GIS map where you can zoom in on a specific property is way more helpful. And so I recognize the legibility sometimes. I've not seen a giant general map that I'm totally pleased with, and I don't know how possible it is, but I can tell you that a GIS map where you where you can apply layers is just so much more helpful. So that's just kind of how it works for me when I'm analyzing a property.
So for land use designations, I put it in what is the same and what has changed. And so really your residential land use designations, your public and civic categories, and most of your commercial designations are the same as your current map. And so what has changed is really the business park and light industry, and then the employment center campus. And why we changed this was because light industry has become more data center focused, while business park is viewed as really different in character. It looks different, it operates different. Data centers pull less jobs than business parks. And so what we ended up doing was splitting the two. And so light industry stays with that data center in mind, power generation future, really around something that's truly light industrial. And then we ended up taking business park, and we really kind of changed that to what employment center campus was. And so that is your employment generators and some of those other service districts. And so before, your land use designation said modern light industrial uses that provide attractive environments for jobs and are compatible with nearby neighborhoods, light industrial businesses and technology parks, food processing and wholesaling, advanced manufacturing, research and development facilities, and attractive low-impact environments. Employment and economic development opportunities, range of scales for offices and production, supporting retail for office and surrounding neighborhoods. Job centers to accommodate a wide range of production and distribution activities. Higher intensity industrial will be buffered from other uses with blue-green infrastructure. And so that old designation kind of combines the two, and so what we did was just separate them. So we currently have your business park talking about modern flex and industrial supportive uses that provide attractive environments for jobs and are compatible with nearby neighborhoods. Technology parks, food processing, and wholesaling. We are going to change that food processing to be, we're kind of having food processing in both. And so one's going to be more around like meat. The other one's going to be more around like bakery goods. Research and development facilities, and attractive low-impact environment. Employment and economic development opportunities, range of scales for offices and production, and supporting retail for office and surrounding neighborhoods. Job centers to accommodate a wide range of production and distribution activities. And then we had your light industry, say industrial and utility supportive uses that strengthen the city's economic base through high-value capital investment and long-term financial returns, while maintaining a modern, low-nuisance character compatible with business park development. Primary uses include data centers and related digital infrastructure, energy and communications facilities, and industrial services that support technology and production ecosystems. Development should be designed for operational reliability with standards for architecture, site planning, and environmental performance. Higher intensity components will be buffered from other land uses through integrated blue-green infrastructure.
Yeah, I'll just say I like this. Considering the item we're looking at later in our policy session, I like this separation of the two because I like how in business park you say it's compatible with neighborhoods versus the energy generation possibility with data centers, so I like this.
Yeah, they're completely different characters as they exist in your city, and so we did want to showcase that they are just different character areas. All right, and then your other land use designations remain the same. Your residential neighborhoods, once again, your public and civic categories and most of your commercial categories will remain the same as they are right now. All right, I can take questions now.
Okay, on the map,
Yes.
we imply And if the city controls the content to every aspect, then that's understandable. So my question is, are we implying that the future annexation areas would either be all agriculture or all light industrial?
For the light industrial one down here, because we gave it a land use designation, we are implying that that will be all light industrial. And we're seeing that mostly for your energy production. For the other two annexation areas that you have, we're really using ag as like a hold term. And so that means that they can be a variety of land use designations. But currently, we don't see that coming online in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I would recommend, the map implies a land use associated with annexation, you need to show two different annexation hatches in your legend, because the legend only refers to the green as annexation, which is implying, hey, this is annexation plus agriculture, right? Because you're implying the underlying land
Yes.
use.
And-
But you need to also show or I would recommend showing the light industrial, because you don't see in the legend. Of course, it's implied, people
Yeah.
can read that, but. The next question I have is with the MDAs, and I know the city's been trying to go through and try to document all those. The question I would have philosophically is, do we even show land use where the MDAs already exist, or do we remove those completely since it's governed by the NMDA? Obviously, we have it, but at the same time, what's the purpose of showing a land use? Is it correct? Is it going to change? Where are the MDAs overlaid?
Yeah, so our original methodology around that, if I can, there we go, was that if there is someone who is looking to develop, I'm just going to use this for an example, in this region right here, that looking at the future land use map, they would be very quick to see what are going to be the areas that are going to be coming around that. And so an example that we used was in this Pole Canyon area with having little to none civic uses and schools. And so if someone was looking to develop in this area over here, something that might make their MDA more palatable would be to include those civic uses.
Yeah. So those crosshatches that indicate MDA,
Yes.
are those just completely based on the MDA, or has the city gone in and suggested some underlying land use already in an MDA?
Those are as the MDA is currently in
Okay.
agreement. We have not gone through on purpose to show, we wanted to show the reality.
Yeah.
And so I know that city council is going back to some of these agreements and actually renegotiating some of that. And as those change, those will be reflected on this map.
Okay. I just have, again, this is the difference because in residential, the map clearly sticks to a future land use terminology that's defined in a code, right? These are not the zones, but these are, if you look up the code, Title 17, it says,
Yes.
hey, residential future land use, A, B, C, D, right? But commercial, we don't have a regional commercial, we have a commercial regional, we have a commercial community, we have a commercial neighborhood. Of course, again, those are zones, specific zones, but has the process considered just saying they're all commercial? With emphasis on a town center, if that's a unique one, versus we're perpetuating this terminology of regional commercial on a future land use map that also has a zone, but it's called community or commercial community, commercial regional. But just wanted to see if they've considered just putting all commercial in one category for the future land use map.
We did look at that, but we found that the different commercial uses do have differences. And so, I mean, something that we can definitely do is switch over the terminology to better reflect. Your light industrial is not going to have a zone attached to it. I know that that is something that will probably change as you update your zoning. But we did want to keep the different types of commercial to signify the different uses that are in those different commercial areas.
I mean, I would suggest if they're different, but they're intending to match the actual zones, then we change, the city can decide what they would like to do, but let's clarify that there's one commercial regional and one commercial community type text. Just a suggestion there. I have some other comments, but I will.
Hi there. I just have, since I'm new up here, this is only my second meeting, I have a question. I'm assuming we have an economist who's helping with planning on all of this. Do we as a city have an economist? Or are you working with an economist? Who's
Yes.
our economist?
So our principal in charge, Christine Richmond, is an economic planner, but we are also working with the city's side. And so that's where we got a lot of the near-term opportunities and the future-term opportunities, was working with your economic department and seeing what's already kind of in the works and what's already been talking through.
Okay.
One of the other things too, I'll say is, this is again part of the general plan process. And we've had multiple focus groups reaching out to different sectors of the community, including the business sector. So we have reached out to business owners to try to get feedback on updating our land use policies.
So we've had focus groups of business owners, and can you give me examples of other focus groups we've maybe worked with?
Yeah, we had
Go ahead.
We had a developer open house. We had 2 developer focus groups. We did go out to the public. We went to the Christmas event. We talked with parks. We talked with agriculture. We talked with
an emergency preparedness group.
Yes.
With our emergency preparedness coordinators and other people who are involved in that.
Yeah, and we talked with the school system. We talked with UTA. We talked with UDOT and MAG.
We even talked to a group of younger residents as well, specifically to get their perspectives, so.
Okay. Do we have any paperwork or files or anything on
Yes.
the information that was gathered through those focus groups?
Yep.
I would love to see those at some point, just because I'm a nerd like that and I want to see what we've got going on. So thank you so much for answering that for me. But I do have a couple other questions. So what prior areas of the map that were already designated for something are now designated as ag? Can you point those spaces out to me?
Yes.
Like, I was trying to find our previous map and like looking but there's different colors, and so I was like.
So all the areas that you currently have on your map as ag have been changed over to ag.
Correct.
And so this whole map used to be full of different land use. This area in particular had like 3 main land uses. It had employment campus, it had industrial, and then I think it had employment campus again. But that was 1,500 acres of business park and employment campus and light industrial.
Is that basically the only space on this map that has been changed, that was previously designated as something else?
This area was also previously other elements. There was a mix of housing on here. There was also light industrial, also some commercial as well in this area as well. So all the areas that currently have this light color have all been changed from a different land use originally.
Right, I'm just asking what they
what
were
the actual one
prior
was.
to. Sorry, I wasn't clear about that. Yeah, I was just curious what they were prior, and then why is it that they now are switched to ag?
So over on the East Bench, you had a lot of Foothill Residential, which is half-acre zoning, and you can go down to a quarter acre, but the average has to be half. There was a lot of larger acre residential agricultural zoning over in that area as well. That's an area that changed a lot, along with, as she noted, along Eagle Mountain Boulevard, the northern portion of that used to have a lot of campus mixed use and commercial. Again, we've had lots of conversations with council on this, so a lot of what you see is resulted from conversations with council. There was strong communication from the council on wanting to leave, especially the areas that you see in ag, to kind of leave them in ag and let people come. And, obviously, like Erica pointed out earlier, there are the biggest thing that this map does is it sends signals to the development community. And we also get signals from the development community, and we as staff and as a city think that we're still lacking some signals to adequately identify uses for around Eagle Mountain Boulevard, and some of these the annexation areas. So agriculture is what we propose to put it in, and I will tell you that's exactly what I've done at my other two jurisdictions that I've worked at. That's, I think, a good signal to people to tell them, hey, this is just open space or ag, until a development community comes in and proposes something, or we get more information to help us know, to guide kind of the signals that we want to send out to the development community.
And here is your current land use map, or current future land use map. And so we can see that there was housing in this lower area over here, and then a lot of it was parks and open space. And then we had this area which was employment center, it was commercial, and it was industrial.
Thank you. I was just curious, I'm learning.
Yeah.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying, so thank you so much for that information. I do have one more question, and it might be ridiculous, I don't really know. Again, I'm learning what good questions are. So if we go to the proposed future land use map, down here, kind of towards, there's like this finger piece down here, kind of along the utility corridor. Can you blow it up bigger? It's right, is this on? Oh, well, it helps if I I have to hold it. Okay, so right there. There's this little finger piece. Where is it at? Now you zoomed in and now I lost it. Anyways, it's in right in that utility corridor. There's that little finger piece, and I think it's ag instead of industrial. So it's, yes, right there. That's what I'm looking for. Right?
Yeah, this was an area that was just zoned over to be agricultural by the council last month or 2 months ago.
Okay.
No, excuse me, it was done at the end of 2024.
Oh, it all blends.
Yeah.
It all
So a
blends
long time
together.
ago.
I have, I guess, just a clarification question. So is it fair to say that agriculture is kind of a placeholder for, let's leave it open, for now it's agricultural, but we don't really see that as like the vision of probably the long term where it ends up? Is that?
Correct.
I would say so, and I think that's generally true, but I also think that there are I believe that some of the indication that we got to is that we want to send a message that, yeah, Eagle Mountain's growing, and it's growing like a weed. It's hard to keep up with, frankly, but I think there is some desire to send the signal that Eagle Mountain is kind of has some agricultural roots, and that it is that there's a desire to keep some open space in this city.
Thank you, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, ready for comments, Erica?
Yeah.
Cool. So I do love how we've gone away from just those huge blocks on the previous one, especially up around kind of the northwest corner where the future freeway is going to go from SR 73. So I think that's good. And I got to be part of one of the focus groups, and it was really fun. We got to go and just map out on there what we want here, what we think would be a good idea here and there and everything. So I like this a little bit better. I am worried maybe some places we've gone a little too soft and added too much agriculture. I think we need to be a little more proactive in like certain hubs of the city. So I'm glad we have like commercial right here. I think that's going to be an important part. But I think we also need to start thinking and signaling to the community what else we want behind that commercial. That's just my opinion. Some of these like big swaths, like major areas, because that's gonna be a transportation crossroads right there. So I'm glad we have that commercial, but we also need to start thinking, okay, what else do we want to have at that major point right there? So I think that with the city council, maybe they've already talked to you on some of those, just those major hubs in the city. Let's be a little more proactive on those. Because I'm worried that if the development community comes in and says, hey, we want to put, I don't know, light industrial right here, like, well, obviously we know we don't want that. We probably want more residential and maybe some business park area. So when people are commuting, they can just hop off right there, they're at their business park. So I might want to add a little more granularity in some of those areas, but I do like in general your approach though.
Would you like to see that in the future land use map, or would having that in the vision map suffice? Let me bring that vision map over. With some of this like little less prescriptive, but still signaling.
Yeah, I think some of these, maybe that are more long-term, I'd be okay having them on here. I think for the more important hubs, though, I'd like to have on the future land use map, especially again, that northwest corner where I was highlighting, where that freeway is gonna be. I think we need to say, hey, we really wanna control what's happening here. Yes, the development community is gonna signal certain things, but I think there's certain areas where we as a city need to say, nope, this is what we need here. Otherwise, it could turn into something crazy, so that's my opinion. Commissioner Hess?
Yeah, are the current active, the transportation plan, shown on this?
Yes.
Okay. And then eventually there'll be the transportation plan will be broken out into future projects. So I have a different take on this. I think this is a complete step back from planning, from land planning. And I know the perspective of why the elected officials prefer this, because it's easier to get input from a developer rather than producing our own vision. So what will happen here is the vision will happen 500 acres at a time. And whoever's elected, whoever's part of the review process will determine that vision rather than going through the process of putting our vision for the city in place. The placeholder for ag is easier. It sends signals that, hey, whatever you want to do, we're up for it. We'll see what makes sense. But somewhere in that process, we have to decide, oh, should we do another data center here? Or should we decide, hey, we don't want that there, but this should represent, even though it's not a regulatory map, this should be the city's vision. And I'll probably misspeak, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but to me, this is a vision for whatever developers want to do, who build our cities, which we're grateful for, but or do they have the same vision that we as a city have? And so I don't see how obviously this meets the intent of a future land use plan, but I think it's a step back. And I think we need to push forward along important transportation corridors, refining what those uses are. You know, getting a use wrong, of course, now the use will be determined by the zone, but the zoning map, but this dictates that from a plan standpoint. So, and I'm not a planner by any stretch, but I see this as an easy way to allow just about whatever comes to us without a vision for the city themselves.
Can I just make a comment to your comment? When I look at this, again, I look at this as a citizen, you know, obviously I am, but, so I think of our citizens looking at this future land use map and them going, oh, look at all that agriculture. Yes, we're protecting so much. That's so great. I love this. I love this. And then we're going down the road, and then all of a sudden our ag is going to this and going to that and going to this and going to that. And I think just from a citizen perspective, that's gonna be frustrating for them. Because honestly, when I first looked at this in the packet, I'm like, oh, look at all that ag. Like, I loved it. But then you realize, okay, like, what are we taking out that was previously planned or will possibly still go in there that is now looks like it's a nice agricultural area that we're just gonna have? You know, so from a citizen perspective, I find that this would probably be frustrating in the long run. But also, I do have a question. You did say something about rodeo grounds, but I didn't look as to where you had that. Is that where our existing grounds are and changing it, or was it moved, and how far? This was in our future, long ways out future, but where was that
Yeah, we had that up.
proposed?
We put a larger one up in the annexation area.
Like Wasatch Wing and Clay area-ish?
Yeah, we don't have anything nailed down. I mean, there's been talk about wanting to have a new rodeo grounds, and some have suggested that might be a good area, but nothing's been pinned down. So that's
Yeah.
just kind of a vision.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that's a really good point, Commissioner Lane, about how the public will interpret it, because communication is 50% how you communicate, 50% how it's received, right? So maybe we need to put on there some other sort of designation of where future open space will be, right? So they don't think it's just agriculture, because you're right, you look at that and it's like, oh, our city, that's cool, we have a lot of open space. So I think that's a really good point. And I don't know how other cities have done that on their future land use map, but maybe we could find some sort of designation where it's like, hey, the city's hoping to keep this open space, and these will be developed some way or another down the road.
There have not been too many cities that have held land without a designation.
I was just thinking, like, in terms of maybe a compromise or a happy medium, like, there's probably too much land to be able to put a precise use to all of it, so I'm not totally opposed to the placeholder, but I do think that, especially along major corridors, thoroughfares, like places that we anticipate to be developed perhaps sooner, that it would be good to signal and kind of indicate what we're looking for. Yeah.
Okay, if I could summarize to make sure that we're on the same page. So what I'm hearing is maybe going a little bit of a step further, particularly around corridors and major kind of hubs that we're seeing, and maybe even moving away from using the term ag as the placeholder and looking at a different terminology for that, for those signals. Still being a portion of it that would kind of be in this hold, but to move forward with a little bit more. Is that what I'm kind of getting in general? I know that some of us might maybe want to go a little bit further than the medium, but is that kind of general consensus?
I think so.
Okay.
And we know you've been working with a lot of cooks in the kitchen and getting lots of conflicting opinions from all the focus groups, council, commission. So we know you're in a very hard spot. So.
I will say that we have talked with the council, and the council's opinion, they're ultimately going to be the body that approves this, and so don't be disappointed if it comes back and looks similar.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions? Thanks for all your hard work on this. Like we said, we know it's a lot of input from a lot of different people, and you're trying to get something that works for everybody. So thank you for doing that, Erica. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Okay, any final items to bring up in our work session? Okay, then we will take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll reconvene here for a policy session in a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the Eagle Mountain City Planning Commission Policy Session for February 24th, 2026. The time is 6:34. We'll go ahead and get started. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you all rise and join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we'll note that Commissioners Free and Strong are excused tonight. Okay, we will go on to our declarations of conflicts of interest. We'll start with Commissioner Lane.
None.
Commissioner Allen has none. Commissioner DeCoursey?
None?
Commissioner Hess?
None.
Okay, thank you. Move on to our meeting minutes from our February 10th meeting. Any changes or clarifications, modifications needed?
This morning, I actually noticed that there were a couple of dates wrong, just right in the bottom, like in the footer. So I already have changed those, but just so you know.
Thank you. I guess I didn't even notice the footer. Thanks, Megan. Any other changes needed? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
No, I'll second that. They know which ones you mean. So motion by Commissioner Lane, second by Commissioner Allen to approve the February 10th meeting minutes as presented with the change, I guess, noted by Megan. Any to clarify? Okay, we'll start the vote with Commissioner Lane.
Yes.
Commissioner Allen is yes. Commissioner DeCoursey?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Abstain, as I wasn't in attendance.
Okay, so that passes 3-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Okay, Brandon, status report.
My computer is not pulling up our action items from last time, so I won't tell you.
Do you want to do it at the end, maybe if it worked
Yeah, I
for
can
you?
do that. I can do that for you at the end. I will say, though, probably the most important thing is you are continuing to serve as the chair, and we thank you for that. We do need to have an election, and we will have that at our next meeting. So at the next meeting, there will be an election among yourselves for a chair and vice chair, so.
Perfect. Thank you. And I think we spoke about it last time, did we? Kind of what the responsibilities are. If not, we could do that real quick. So, okay. Yep, so with the chair, I mean, the chair helps work with the planning department to set the agenda, run the meetings, obviously, just coordinate extra meetings and things like that. And there's the vice chair who backs up the chair on all those things too. Commissioner Hess has been doing a great job with that. And if the chair's ever out of town, then the vice chair runs the meeting. Occasionally, you'll get a time where maybe both would be gone. It happened to be my first 6 months, and they asked me to run the meeting. That was intimidating. But yeah, so we'll vote on that next time. Hopefully, everyone will be here. So if you have questions about it, you can ask staff or myself or Commissioner Hess on that as well. So thank you, Brandon.
I actually do have the agenda here in another form to report back to you on. We did have a conceptual discussion, I think the same conceptual discussion that or at least same topic, Overland Village 2. We took that to the council last meeting last week and got some feedback from them. It was helpful. Also, we did get some feedback from the council on, we've been having an issue, and I don't recall if we brought this up with you or not, but we have had a couple of developers reach out to us about our drive-through screening requirements. They are, we've had one, the property owner that's right over here that's helped to bring Panda Express and McDonald's here. He's having a hard time nailing down letters of interest or intent because of the drive-through. The drive-through requirement basically pushes the drive-through to the back of the building in a way, off the road, off like major roads. And so our intent isn't to forestall commercial development in the city, and so we are going to get with him and maybe another developer too, and look and see what we can do to facilitate, commercial development while still making our drive-throughs look nice. So we did have a little discussion on that, and then as far as other items, it wasn't a heavy meeting with items from our council. We did adopt the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface Map, did get adopted, and so that's it's been adopted and is now in effect. And other than that, it was there was a lot going on in that meeting, but not so much for land use items. So there was. Trying to remember, no, never mind. I thought there was, it seems like we're doing DAs every week, but no, I think we're good on that. So that's what I have for you. That's my report.
For the drive-throughs, when I was watching that meeting, it seemed like we kind of came down to hey, let's have some barriers, like some landscaping, some
Yep.
stuff just to
Yep.
beautify it more.
Yep.
Make sure, okay, just wanted
Yep,
to.
exactly. We definitely, one of the things, and I brought this up with council, is, so this McDonald's over here, when we were looking at that as staff, it was kind of frustrating because the best architectural, so you're looking at the elevations of the building, and the best elevation of the building, the very best one was faced away from the road. And it was just like, we don't want to do that. We want that one facing the road. And so we still need to facilitate drive-throughs and business operations, but we just want the city to look nice, so. Yep. So we'll do it just like you said with landscaping. I don't know if there's some awning treatments or other things, but we'll definitely get to work figuring that one out.
Okay, thank you, Brandon, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to our action advisory items for the evening, and thank you to the public for being here tonight. We appreciate you as always being here. When we get to the public hearing portion, if you want to leave or speak, there are forms in the back you can fill out and bring them up to Megan, our secretary up here. If you represent yourself, you are welcome to 3 minutes, and if you're representing a group, it's 5 minutes, and our secretary will time that just to keep everybody on track here. And thank you to Councilmember Clark in the back as well for being here tonight. We know she's very busy. We appreciate it. Okay, let's start with our action advisory item 7A. Marcus, we'll turn over to you.
Okay, so this is a development agreement, proposed development agreement between the city and Willpower UT LLC, which represents Williams, which is a independent power producer interested in building a natural gas power plant on the Meta site that is south of the currently developed site. So it'd be just south of where the substation is. So this agreement is in line with that goal. And so the property is currently zoned RTI. It's owned by Stadion LLC, which is controlled by Meta, and currently is looking to expand and build additional data centers on the property south of where the existing data center is. In order to do that, the technology has changed as such that whereas when the first data center went in, it's the cooling of for the servers is highly water-based and requires lots and lots of water, which is not great in the desert. But the technology has changed as such as it's now an air-based cooling system that requires lots and lots of energy. And you see across the country where with the expansion of AI and the computing power that demands, the demand for data centers is quite a bit, and you see them being announced across the state of Utah and across the country with great frequency. So these companies are looking to expand so that they can keep up with the technology. And so in order to do that, in order to facilitate that, they need lots of power, and Rocky Mountain Power just generally hasn't been able to keep up with that. And so we're turning to independent power producers like Williams to come in and assist with that so that, in our case, it would enable us to reduce the tax burden on our citizens while providing a tax base through these economic development projects, like with the data center, Facebook data center, and with Williams supporting that. So, getting to the agreement, the highlight of the agreement essentially is that they would be allowed to build this natural gas power plant. It is a permitted accessory use under the Stadion Development Agreement that we did in the fall that facilitated the expansion to the southern property. So that was, I think, done in October. So that is what this is in relation to, is that property that's as yet undeveloped. So that, natural gas power plant was something that was contemplated at the time we did that development agreement, and now this is kind of the next step, I guess, in that. So that's where we're at. They are asking for a few, let's go and highlight the things they're asking that are kind of wouldn't or be allowed but for this proposed agreement. So, they're looking to do a fence up to 10 feet in height. That is consistent with what we allowed with the data centers as a security thing. So that's the reason for that. The noise, our current code allows up to 65 decibels at the nighttime as measured from the property line. That is difficult to meet with a natural gas power plant. So they're asking for an exception up to 75 decibels. Now, in other cities, neighboring cities, such as the city where I live in Lehigh, that is normal in industrial zoned properties to allow up to 75 decibels any time of day. So that's not anything out of line with what other cities in our area would allow. And other communities also have similar standards, and it's something we're looking to maybe changing to allow for a little bit more leniency in the industrial zones on a code basis. But until then, they're looking for that exception to the code. Given the proximity of the other landowners, if you look at the map, the other properties that are adjacent to it are, owned by Tract, Google, Enyo Energy. So those are the properties that are adjacent to it. It's kitty corner from QTS. So it's other, industrial type uses that are neighboring properties. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So, as far as the sound goes, the reduction in sound is exponential. So the further away you get from a source of the sound, it's not just a linear progression, it's an exponential progression in how it dissipates. So it's called the inverse square law, if anyone is curious. But in any event, given that it's along a major road, Pony Express Parkway, and the neighboring properties are all industrial in nature, that doesn't appear to be an issue to allow for the 75 decibels. So that's kind of the rationale behind that. There are a few other, I think, things that have to do mostly with construction. They want to, within just that parcel that is subject to the new stadium development agreement, they want to be able to do above ground distribution lines, which would be against our code, but it would only be allowed within the parcel to deliver power to the data centers for the data center expansion. And then they want to be able to zero-scape, similar to the way Facebook is zero-scaping. That's really it. So those are the highlights of the agreement. Otherwise, it mostly follows the kind of what we've done in previous stadium agreements and other data center agreements. So it's very similar in the way that it's written. They would be responsible for any project improvements related to infrastructure, water, sewer, and to make sure that whatever wastewater they produce is something that we're able to treat. And so there's provisions related to that. But with that, just if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Any questions for staff right now? Commissioner DeCoursey?
Yeah, I had a question on the consistently exceed language, so in the noise. I guess I'm less concerned with the decibel adjustment, but more with how the city has enforcement remedies only if operations consistently exceed the acceptable noise level. How do you envision that being interpreted or, I guess, enforced?
Well, I mean, typically with any sort of code enforcement, and this is really akin to that, because all it is saying, you normally you have a 65 decibel, again, we would allow 75 decibels during the day anyways, anywhere in the city. At nighttime, we would allow only up to 65 decibels as measured from the property line. The way that would ever come to our attention is through a complaint. Okay, so if somebody were complaining, so if we were getting multiple complaints, I don't think that's likely because, again, the neighboring properties are either other data center properties or other energy producers. And so, but in the off chance that we receive consistent complaints from Tract or Enyo regarding the sound, something we would investigate, determine whether or not we could substantiate the allegations. And if we received, over a period of time, got those, then we would, certainly, with each occasion, we'd bring it to the attention of Facebook and Williams. And, but if it kept happening, then we would invoke the remedies provisions potentially. I mean, that's sort of the nuclear option, but you try to work with people first.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So I guess if I could characterize it, it's that from a practical standpoint, we think complaints will be low and.
Yeah, this is not near any residential properties. It's near other similar type uses.
Okay.
How close is this to the closest residential property on south on Lake Mountain Road? I mean, roughly.
I don't have any way of measuring that here. I can say not close.
Okay, I was just curious.
Like you would not be able to hear it. Like, not just that it wouldn't be loud, I don't think you'd be able to hear it at all.
Do we have a map exactly where this is, just to help us visualize? Do you have that, Brandon?
I do.
I can show.
Okay, thank you.
It's about 10,000 feet, so about 2 miles from, I think Parkway Fields is the nearest residential.
I think that is accurate as far as what the
Yeah.
nearest residential, what the nearest residential property is. Okay, so Carson here. Did he take off? Okay, that's gonna be, sorry, this is always, so like, see, let's.
It is about 2 miles. Probably the
There you go.
closest residences are gonna be actually in an unincorporated county, and they're about
So-
2 miles.
So we are talking about this parcel right here. Lake Mountain Land Company is Enyo. This is All Stadium, which is Facebook. Curly Bird is Google. This is Tract. And so these are all undeveloped. So these are all Lake Mountain Land Company, which is Enyo. Also Fairfield. So if you look at it like today, right, that's what you're looking at. So you see the Facebook data center in the middle there. And that's it. I think everything else is vacant at this point. I believe this is QTS right here. Yeah. So this is the parcel we're talking about right here. Yeah, so it's not near anything that currently exists other than data centers or data centers under construction. And everything around it is of the similar nature. So there's not any residential anywhere nearby. Again, 75 decibel sound when you're like 400 feet away is down to like 30 some odd decibels at 400 feet. And so we're measuring from the property line. So when you're talking at a 400-foot distance, you're not getting to anywhere. And I think they're planning on building it, and then correct me if I'm wrong, over here on the eastern portion. So, yeah, so this parcel's tracked. They're gonna build data centers. This is Facebook. This is Enyo. Church owns this parcel. That's the only one that's not. So, yeah, so I hope that gives you a little bit better visualization.
Yeah, it's helpful. Thank you. Any other questions for staff before the applicant comes?
Yeah, Marcus, so Williams owns the parcel, or are they gonna be purchasing a portion of the property?
I think they
from-
can speak to that if they have representatives here. Yeah, so they're gonna be purchasing it from
They're gonna
Stadium.
purchase it, but currently, right now, there's an MDA with Stadium on the same tract of land.
Yes.
And so so will there be two MDAs on the same tract of land, or it will be separated
So
somehow?
we're gonna do, I think we're still in the process of creating the legal description, so there'll be a
Okay.
portion in which that's the case. Obviously, the later GROP adopted agreement, to the extent they're inconsistent, would control.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
So when I was looking up information on just our overlay and our codes for our RTI overlay zone, I'm just looking for anything that we have that would be applicable specifically to this space. It seems like there isn't much, if anything,
so
written in code for this area.
This is not a permitted use in the zone. That's why we're doing a development agreement and following the procedures outlined in statute that would allow us to adopt this.
So this will only be, anything that we come up with is only going to be written in agreement, nothing written into a code? or that
At this
we're gonna
point in
have a
time,
standard code?
there's a code that has, been worked on and stuff, but that's not been passed yet.
So we are talking about a space that's going to go in possibly without having code written for the space yet.
So again, it's being allowed through the development agreement. It's already allowed under the stadium agreement. So there's no code in existence, but at this time that would allow a natural gas power plant in the city anywhere, which is why we have to do it through a development agreement until we pass a code that would allow it somewhere. And even then, I don't know that we would necessarily need to apply it to this particular parcel since we are allowing it through the agreement.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
I don't know if, I don't know if this is the best time to ask this question for you, Marcus, but really my number one concern with these MDAs is the language in 5.8.
Yeah, is that the additional property clause?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Because it
We
sort
did-
of says it's basically any time this company may purchase property or another affiliate company may
Yeah.
purchase property will be added to the MDA?
yeah, so, I mean, the way it works, right, obviously, is if there's contiguous property that they end up purchasing, then they can add it to the MDA, and contiguous doesn't include, interruptions by a right-of-way or something like that. As it's written, and I'm open, I haven't talked to them about this, but certainly open to changing it. It adopts the old language we use for that rather than the ones we've done in current and more recent agreements, which clarifies that they need to come back for a rezone to the RTI in order to qualify. I think that is in the way that it's written, because it does have to comply with the zoning ordinance and stuff, but it could certainly be more clear, which is why we changed the language in subsequent agreements. This, unfortunately had the old language, and so I'm certainly open to adjusting it to the new language. That's pretty standard protocol, though, for a lot of development agreements. I know you don't like it. It's not just these types of agreements. It's in residential MDAs, and some of them, not all of them, as well. So.
Okay, any other questions? Marcus, if you don't mind just leaving your map up when the applicant comes up, I'm gonna have a question with the map. That's okay.
Okay.
So I actually have a lot of questions about this. I'm just not sure if they're more appropriate for you or for the applicant. So I guess once I hear from the applicant, then I can go ahead and see if they'll answer some of the questions that I have. And if I need to ask them to you, then I'll ask them to you.
Okay, we'll invite the applicant up. If you don't mind stating your name, please.
I can't multitask, so give me 1 second. My name is Andrew Johns. I'm a project manager for Williams on this project. All right, so quick little elevator pitch summary of our project. So we've named this project Project Aquila. It's a behind-the-meter 286 megawatt generating facility, and behind the meter is meaning entirely separated from Rocky Mountain Power. So your local constituents will not see the impact of the power demand by our customer. We're supplying this through a 20-mile natural gas pipeline from our existing assets further south in the state. And our overall facility footprint's gonna be about 50 acres, about a half mile in length, as Marcus indicated in that southeast corner. And I have some further exhibits to show on that. And also part of our power delivery, we're asking for a half-mile overhead delivery from our facility to our customer's facility to actually deliver power to them. And we have a partial in-service and then a full in-service. So we're going to be first delivery of power in Q1 of next year, and then full full contract by Q1 of the following year. Somehow I turned the screen off here, so I apologize. And then here's a overlay of our site. So this is north is to the left of the screen. And so it's half mile in that in that north to south length there. We have 17 major power generating pieces of equipment with auxiliary systems to support that. And then you can see the lines going off there to the left of the page are the overhead lines. And then pretty picture to help visualize what this facility will look like. And in this particular example, north is top right of the screen. And so, yeah, we're available for any further questions.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to go first?
Actually,
Yeah, Commissioner Lane?
I will start with this. So I did try to make sure that I came in here as educated as possible on gas power plants before coming in and sitting down. So some of the questions I ask, hopefully they're applicable, and if they're not, then I'm sorry, I did do my best. What type of turbines would be in this plant?
In the sense that, so
Like simple cycle, combined cycle?
Simple cycle.
They're simple cycle?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask, if we have the map, could you show where all the power lines are going to go? Are they contained in that one parcel that Marcus was showing, or how far are we talking with that? So you said half a mile. I'd like to just kind of see on that map, but maybe.
yeah, I don't have a overall map like
Marcus, could you
had.
maybe pull that up, and then you could just show us with the laser pointer? Sorry if that's hard.
I can't pull it up from here, or maybe I can, I don't, but.
Do they just run up to Meta?
Correct.
Okay.
Which computer?
No. Don't have it.
Yeah, so the stadium parcel is 460 acres, so from one end to the other, it could easily, exceed a half mile.
So if we're envisioning it, so you're thinking bottom right corner and staying in that kind of teal parcel you had within that whole
Entirely.
parcel? Okay.
Yeah, so that teal parcel is where their expansion is going to be, and they're actually just coming south of where that substation is at the very end of their current facility, and we are going to be, the power lines will be between us and there.
Okay.
And
perfect.
so they basically run out here, as you see, going down on the page, and then they just go ever so slightly north. So it's basically the north edge of our facility and the south edge of their facility are almost at the same latitude.
Perfect, thank you. And I'm assuming the ask for overhead power lines is just a cost issue, right? Because burying is pretty expensive.
You can take it over.
Oh, he's getting
Nice.
it.
That is correct. So when you bury power lines, you have to add additional capacity to it, and so it would just be a larger burden to the overall footprint of the facility.
Yeah, so.
Okay, Marcus has it. Thank you, Marcus.
All right, so, they're talking about building it here, and again, the language of the development agreement is they can only go overhead with distribution lines anywhere governed by the stadium agreement that we entered into in October, which only governs this parcel. So the prior agreement governs up here north. They could have just, with the additional property clause in the existing stadium agreement, could have just annexed this land into the agreement. They chose to do a new development agreement. So they can't do overhead distribution line, above ground distribution lines anywhere outside of this parcel. But yeah, so, I don't know if he's talking about where exactly the data centers are gonna go. I assume they're gonna be I think they're planning to do 2 initially and then 6 total. But yeah.
Thank you, Marcus.
That's what we're talking.
But if Rocky Mountain Power were producing this, they would have to bury the lines. Is that correct? For distribution? Based on our code?
Yeah, based on our code, if Rocky Mountain Power were providing power, they would have overhead transmission lines from wherever it's coming from, all the way to the site potentially, and then the distribution lines would be buried. But the transmission lines would definitely be above ground.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant?
Oh, it came back up. I was able to find an image. So here's the routing within that overall parcel, if that's easier to visualize. So this is our facility here.
And north is to the left.
Correct, north is to the left.
Oh,
Yep.
perfect. Yeah, thank you. That is helpful. Okay, any more questions for the applicant?
Yeah,
Charlene?
so with the simple cycle, deal, how much water does that use?
Water is not required for it to be used.
Okay.
It allows it to become more efficient.
Okay,
And so for this particular facility, we are looking at a maximum use of 8 million gallons a year. of
8
water.
million a year.
A year.
Is there anything written that says that you're not allowed to use potable water?
Not to my
Like, are
knowledge.
you, so you're able to use our drinking water, treated water coming in, there's no regulation or anything that says that you can't use our drinking water for that?
Correct.
It can just be
it's-
any water?
Yeah, it's the
Okay.
same water system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys required to treat your own wastewater? How much wastewater do you have, or are you under like a, what is it, like a zero liquid discharge?
We're exploring both scenarios. We're working with city engineers to determine what the discharge total solid requirements are. And we're working to either meet that or on-site disposal.
Okay.
And so it'd be through evaporative ponds on-site.
Okay, so have you guys done is there like floodplain studies that have been done yet, or will there be? I'm just aware of how our ground is out here, and if we have, wastewater coming out, if it's treatable, if it's not, or are you required to have it be treated?
No.
Okay, so you're not required to have any wastewater treated. With our ground out here, is a floodplain study something that would be done?
If we were intending to distribute it in a manner that would flow off of the property, I would imagine so. But all the, I guess,
All your stuff is gonna be,
yeah, so
Pond?
the large blue boxes on the top right corner and the bottom are our containment of all of our stormwater, as well as if we do need to have on-site evaporative ponds for this discharge water from the process system, it would be entirely graded to be contained on-site for I believe a 100-year flood type design basis. And I guess to clarify on the water processing of it, the water is not actually mixing with the gas stream. It's it's just evaporating on the front. Yeah.
sorry, I was just talking to myself. Will you guys be providing us with like a risk analysis? As part of this, do we get like a risk analysis at all from them for what this is? Do we get like a 5-year incident report from you or anything like that?
Those kinds of things are typically not handled at a city level.
Oh, I'm just asking, is
Yeah,
is
no.
this stuff
I mean, that's kind of
available?
stuff
Where
that
does
would,
it get?
go to state and federal regulatory authorities,
Okay,
not
so
necessarily to the city.
never mind. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Hess?
Yeah, I was guessing, is your facility required to obtain an industrial water use permit from the state of Utah because of the volume of water or the type of use that it is? And I think that's where Commissioner Lane was going, is some type of state regulation. What other state regulations do you need to follow for this?
That's a good question. I'm going to defer that to my permitting team. Hal, you wanted to? Yeah, come
Yeah,
on.
because the state water quality, of course, they have to meet the city requirements for, erosion, but in some cases, the industrial use requires a separate individual permit from the Division of Water Quality. Is this a facility that is typed like that?
No, an industrial use permit's not required for this. We will have a stormwater permit, and
you don't-
a spill plan as well.
I was trying to say, if you don't mind stating your name, please. for the
Oh,
record.
I'm sorry, Hallie Bauman.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and that makes sense. So it's just gonna operate as if it were a regular other development. So there's not additional requirements, at least from stormwater, other than what the city already requires you to do. Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this item is a public hearing, so at 7:09 PM, we'll open the public hearing. Megan, have we received any communication on this? Anyone here like to address us on this before we address the letter?
We did get a communication I
Got the one
forwarded
letter,
to you.
yep. Yeah, we'll talk about that one. Anybody here like to address this before we go over that letter? Please come on up.
Good evening. My name's Jason Bull. I submitted the letter. Did all of you receive it?
I got it just prior to the meeting. I'm new, so I wasn't on the email list.
Okay.
So I apologize for it being overlooked by myself.
I do have paper copies if you'd like paper copies. As I said, my name's Jason Bull. I work for Snell and Wilmer. We represent Lake Mountain, property owner adjacent to this project. And I guess I want to make it clear from the beginning, we're asking not that this DA be denied, but quite honestly that it be tabled, and so that adequate information, proper noticing can happen. I mean, in the last 10 minutes, you guys have asked questions that the public, as somebody who's reading the notice, wanted to know. Where is this going? We were told it's on the Stadian property. There's 6 parcels, over 1,000 acres. That's not a public notice, adequate public notice, to let them know that a gas energy facility is going to be installed. Additionally, as far as the notice, state code is very clear. If a DA is modifying the zoning code, it has to follow the process of modifying the zoning code or a zone change. Neighboring property owners should have been notified. Neighboring property owners were not notified of this change. There were no site plan, no parcel numbers, no map, no plan provided in the notice as far as where this is, as well as the public information. You know, we're learning tonight that there may be on-site sewer treatment facility in conjunction with this. So I think there's a lot of questions about this application that really it's not appropriate to make a decision with so many outstanding questions. Air quality. What's the impact of the air quality? What studies have been done on the air quality? Noise. Increasing the decibels, although I agree, increasing distance does decrease sound. Increasing the decibels by 10 decibels doubles the sound. And so what is that impact? And as a neighboring property owner, I feel like we should have a right to understand where a project is happening, what's happening on it, so that we can evaluate the impact, especially as we're considering millions of dollars of investment on a piece of property. To not have answers and not be clear on what's happening on the property, it just seems a bit premature to be making a decision at this point.
30 seconds remaining.
Thank you. There are a lot of other questions. We have the same concern with 5.8. State code's really clear. You can't enter into a DA that obligates a future city council or goes around the zoning process as required in state code. The letter does outline other things, concerns with the screening, a 3-foot berm being required.
Your time is up. Thank you.
So I'm happy to answer any additional questions if you have about that letter that was submitted.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Okay.
So I just want to respond a little bit to some of the statements. So, I mean, first of all, I just want to make clear in the outset that Lake Mountain Land Company is Enyo Energy, is a competitor of Williams. So I think that should be understood as context. And we love Enyo. We did a development agreement with them last year. They are going to put in a little bit of solar in the city, battery energy storage systems south of the city in unincorporated Utah County. They're going to put in their own natural gas power plant. I do want to say that at the outset so we can understand kind of the context of who his client is and what interests he's representing. I am not concerned about the noticing. He is correct that state code does require that you follow the same procedures for enacting a land use regulation. However, that does not require that you mail notice to adjacent property owners unless they are an affected entity. In order to be an affected entity under state code, you have to meet certain criteria, one of which is it would require you to alter the infrastructure you have on your property, on the affected property. As I showed you on the map, there is no infrastructure, it's vacant land. They haven't built anything yet. So it wouldn't require them to alter anything because there's nothing to alter. There is just the natural land that on the adjacent properties that they own. So that I don't think is well taken, any claim that they were required any sort of written notice. The statute just requires that we publish notice in 3 different places, our city website, the state website, and I think one additional place that we're required to do it. And we follow the noticing guidelines that are required. In the letter, he indicates if it's a zoning map change or if it's a code change, then your city code requires certain requirements. However, this is neither of those things. Our city code doesn't require any sort of special noticing above and beyond what state code requires when it comes to development agreements. And state code does not require, even when enacting a land use regulation, that you provide any notice other than what I just said with the public notice website, city website, and so on. So unless they're affected entity, they are not entitled to any sort of specific written notice. Because they don't have any infrastructure, they don't have anything on the land that they own and the adjacent properties, they don't meet the definition of an affected entity under state code. So I guess that is the kind of the first issue. He does mention, yes, he's correct that 10 decibel increase is in fact a doubling of the sound. It's, which is noteworthy. However, that being said, with the inverse square law, that dissipation of the sound from the property line happens very rapidly. So again, he's talking about their properties that are adjacent to. They're talking about where they're going to put in battery energy storage system or solar panels. Those are the adjacent properties. That's what they have outlined in their development agreement. So, I mean, and we're really excited for that they're doing that. We think it'll be a great boon to the city, but there's a place in Eagle Mountain for power produced by Williams and power produced by Enyo as well. And so this is not something where we see that there's any sort of conflict, as there are huge power needs that are, we have existing, agreements with various data centers that are gonna need all this power. And there's room for multiple parties to be providing it to them. The fact that Facebook on this instance has partnered with Williams does not mean that Enyo doesn't have opportunities out there. There's certainly, I think a build-out tract is gonna require something in the neighborhood of like 4 gigawatts of demand, which I think is about the equivalent to what the state of Utah currently demands. So, I mean, that's the kind of power we're talking about. There's plenty of room for plenty of independent power producers. So, the fact that, yes, there's a possibility that it's going to be louder than what city code currently allows in the nighttime hours, that affects their adjacent property. Their adjacent property is a battery energy storage system. It's solar panels. That's what we're talking about. So, those are things to keep in mind. I don't think that they are adversely affected by that. We already allow up to, I think, 80 decibels during the day. So it's even consistent with daytime code. So that would be perfectly allowable during the day under existing code. So they're not gonna have workers there and between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. typically. So, and that's something to keep in mind. He makes, I think, 11 points in his letter, 11 different issues that he raises. As far as the additional property clause, I think we've addressed that, but all the other ones, I'm really not seeing the issues. Our agreement with Facebook, I don't think is, anything that they have standing to raise objections to what effect it would have, or landscaping exceptions as being consistent with what Facebook's already been granted. And that, we're certainly not requiring Enyo to do any specific landscaping on their solar panel properties. So I think, we're trying to treat people, similarly situated individuals similarly, but to the extent that they are differently situated, we're trying to make allowances for that. So where you're keeping something entirely on an industrial property, does the requirement that we underground distribution lines make as much sense in that context versus in a residential neighborhood? So those are the kind of things. So I mean, I guess that would be my kind of general response, and with some specific responses to it as well. So.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. Anyone else here like to address us on this item?
Good evening, I'm Amanda Mendenhall. I'm with the EM Founders Group. My comment tonight just wants to speak to my belief that it's irresponsible to enter into an agreement where there's so many unknowns. First of all, the agreement that's been presented to you does not state the property. And Mr. Draper continues to talk about how there's so much energy that's needed and gas generation that's needed in this valley. My understanding, and perhaps I just didn't read the agreement closely enough, was that this doesn't require them or to put any energy back into the grid. My understanding is that this is to give power to one customer. So I don't understand how that would relieve your tax burden. And if the problem is energy for the whole valley, and you can only have so much gas generation in the valley with respect to emissions, it just seems to me the responsible thing to do would be to table this and to look at it a little closer. Because if you're using one gas generated resource for one customer, that's not going to help your city. And so I don't understand how it would reduce the tax burden and how it would be something that would actually benefit your community. But other instances in this agreement that remain unknown is what's the consideration. It says that there's some consideration that will be paying to the city. That's not there. I just think it would be irresponsible to approve a contract with so many unknowns and so many questions and so many blank spaces. So I would just recommend that you table it until you have all of your questions answered.
Thank you. Anyone else here like to address us on this?
Jeff Ruth. I probably went over this once before. I grew up across from a power plant. Started out as coal. Then they changed it to oil. And then they stopped using the oil. They put a natural gas plant on the side of it. I never heard a thing. I mean, to sit and say, I'm sure this is going to be bigger than what was across the street. But to say the noise is going to be an issue, really? I don't think so. And then they complain about pollution, and I saw on Facebook somebody pulled some research from Wisconsin about how bad natural gas plants are. Well, you can get any group out there to call themselves some scientific whatever, and that natural gas plants are terrible and this and that. I don't buy it. Personally, I'd like to see an SMR out there. You know, bring those on. They're a lot safer. They don't pollute at all. And they can use some of the nuclear fuel that's sitting at these plants that they say, you know, is waste. And these new plants can use that as waste. Now, those are years off. But like I said, for now, I don't see a problem with this. And I hope it goes forward. And as far as taxes, yeah, they're going to pay a pretty penny taxes. And again this week, someone come up and said, we need a rec center. Well, property owners aren't ready to pay for a rec center. Let these data centers build, let them build their power plants and take that tax money and build a rec center. So that's my opinion on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here like to address us on this? Yeah, please.
My name is Reagan Peck. To kind of just talk to a couple of the comments, to the lady talking about air quality, as well as you guys should know there's air attainment in every valley, and you can't go over that, and that's not regulated here. It's going to be regulated with the FDA and whatnot. So if they're the first one out there, then they just took some from the pie, and it'd be the next person's concern. But I don't think that that's a concern that they should have to fight right now, other than making sure they have the right permits, because the air attainment is for everybody to fight with until there is no longer quality air. The second thing would be that none of these none of this power is going to go to the grid. And if we think that we need to change that ideology, these guys are building to give to Facebook, and Facebook's going to pay for their power. And QTS is going to do the same thing, and QTS is going to pay for their power. So if anybody thinks that this is going to go into the grid, they need to end that right now. It won't ever go to the grid, and we won't benefit from that, and that's okay, other than what this gentleman talked about with taxes. We'll get benefited with tax revenue, but we're not going to get the power. So we got to stop worrying about the power. You made up the question earlier about water. It's the same thing. There's only so much water, and if they build that and they take the water they need to cool it, then that just takes away from whoever needs to build next, and that's the next person's concern, not Williams Gas right now. And then lastly, this was already zoned for what we're looking at many, many months and years ago. So they're not looking for a rezone, and really their building permits to talk about his letter. A lot of that stuff would come when they go to apply for their building permits. Right now they're showing a concept plan, which is a great concept plan, and there may be some issues with the building permits, but that's not for here or for something to be tabled later. It'd be for them to at least get ready to roll, get this approved to move on to city council so then they can apply for the building permits and get this going across the board that way. So I'm for it. I think it's a great idea, but I think there just needs to be clarification on it'll never go to the grid. We can't argue that point. It shouldn't be tabled because of that point. The air quality, they get a fight for it just like you could or I could if I wanted to build something, and that's going to be for the builders down the road. But right now, they have a green light. Airtainment is fine until it's not. Shouldn't be tabled for that either. So I hope you look at that consideration and just know there will be questions down the road, but for today's meeting, I don't think any of those raise a big enough concern that it should be moved to another meeting.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else who'd like to address us on this? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing at 7:26 PM. Thank you. Okay, discussion. Any follow-up questions or anything? Commissioner Lane?
Well, I just have a lot of, I mean, it's been pretty much said already that there's just a lot of unanswered questions with this. One of the things that I'm noticing, okay, so I think, trying to remember, I've had a few conversations. I'm trying to remember who it was that I specifically spoke with that I was asking about our code, like what do we have as a city as far as regulations for this type of deal. Now, I understand, yes, this is going to be written out and agreed in the agreement and all this stuff, and that, hey, they're required to follow, you know, the EPA. Well, so that I'm looking into the EPA, and the EPA just lowered, revised, or completely threw out a bunch of their stuff this month, this year. So, which I find concerning. So I mean, as I'm looking these things up, one of the things that they repealed was the carbon capture. Like, they were required to capture 90%, and now it's repealed, and gas plants no longer face any requirements for capturing that. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I don't want to state things that I've seen if it's incorrect. Nitrogen oxide, they weakened their stance on that. They reverted. One of the things I actually have more of a problem. The noise is not an issue to me. I don't think that's problematic. But I do wonder about the odor, especially on a windy day. We get a lot of windy days out here. Is there any odor with this? I don't know. But one of the things on this is that there are less limits on that. As far as from the EPA standpoint, the EPA completely abandoned it said its plans were in place to set the first ever CO2 limits for existing fleets. They have completely abandoned that guideline and will not move forward with it. The monitoring of the facilities, it was required continuous real-time emissions monitoring for toxic pollutants, and the EPA just eliminated that. The plants are no longer required to use continuous monitoring systems. So as I'm just looking into some of this stuff and then considering like where we actually have, like we're high desert in a valley. Like we're obviously all very aware of our weather pattern or getting socked in out here and how things kind of loop around and as far as like inversion. Also, I do wonder, this is just a side note and perhaps you could answer this for me. I wonder if the altitude affects the amount of water needed and if it affects the efficiency of the plant itself. And while you're coming up, I'll go ahead and add this. Yeah, go ahead and answer that, and then I just have comments, or more comments to make.
So yes, the altitude does affect the efficiency on turbines in general, and that is a component of where we have explored the use for the water to help offset that to hit the overall demand. So from a comparison standpoint, we use ISO conditions, so basically zero elevation, 60 degrees F in terms of unitizing all these. So we have like 520 megawatts worth of installed capability if we're at ideal conditions. And because of the elevation, it derates to the 286. And then also to your comment on the emissions, every single one of our turbines will have continuous emissions monitoring on them.
So, but is there anything that would, if the EPA changes their standard, there's nothing then that you would be required to have that on there? I see that you're saying that you're gonna have that, and I appreciate that. But there's nothing in any requirement, basically, from this point forward, from an EPA standpoint, that anyone coming in after you would have to have any of that? I mean, I guess that's not really a question for you. I'm just saying that it's.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, please, if you don't mind stating your name, please.
Yes, so, yeah. No, happy to answer questions. So my name is JD Kessler. I'm an attorney with Parsons Bailey in Salt Lake, representing Williams. When it comes to the air quality standards, the project will be governed by an air quality permit that it obtains from the DAQ with the state of Utah. So while I understand there are changes, or we're trying to determine what the changes are for air quality at EPA standards, you know, their permitting obligations are through the state of Utah, which is a process they're going through with DAQ currently.
So how closely are those standards to the current EPA standards?
That's something I don't have the exact answer on that. I will not speculate as to what's going on with the current EPA standards. But DAQ has standards, that's the permitting process that governs it. This is also a different, I mean, this facility is not, you know, it is not a power plant in the same way that some of the power plants you hear about around the country are. It is a different type of facility. And I can let Andrew continue to answer questions. I'm sure he's happy to, but I'm happy to answer any questions any of you have for me.
I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as far as just continuing to discuss this with you guys, as far as just being in this high desert valley, consider, all things considered, I just find it concerning about the possibility of having, you know, inversions due to changes in standards. And I guess the question for you would be, do you in the operation of this see, like, are you going to be continuing to capture 90%? Or are you not going to be doing that anymore? Or is that an outdated, incorrect statement as far as baseload gas plants are required to capture 90% of CO2? Is that not applicable? Is it applicable?
I think it would go back to that DAQ like requirement that we would have to maintain, and that would be what we would.
And do you have that? Are you aware, like, what is that? Or he said he didn't have it. Do you have it? You guys just aren't sure at the moment?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not the best one to speak to that, I'm sorry. Or do you have
And I think
that
those are, the state is a regulatory agency for the authorization, and they set the threshold for those. They are influenced by the EPA, but of course, the federal government goes through political winds and shifts, and so those things can be changed. But the point, it would be that it has to be permitted through DAQ, and whatever those state requirements would be applicable, not just across the state, but specifically in this particular area. You know, it might be different if you were building the same facility in Salt Lake County, right? There's a different air quality component in where you are. So the state of Utah controls that process. The city doesn't permit that. We're not the regulatory authority for the facility per se. The state is, you know, in this case, we're looking at it from a zoning standpoint. So of course, I don't know the particulars. I'm aware of them to some extent, but we would hang our hat on the state of Utah lays out everything that's required. They would be required to meet it, and they would be in compliance.
Yeah, Commissioner, I mean, I think, frankly, we didn't bring our air quality expert because the air quality expert deals with this at the state level at DAQ and not at this level for zoning or for the city approval, so I apologize for that.
No, you're good, and I understand that. I'm just
yeah.
like, I'm just trying to have as much information as I can. I understand my role, or our role here, but all of these things play so tightly into this, it's important for me that I just have information like that.
I guess I'd have a question. Where are you in the process of your DAQ permitting? Have you begun that process, or
Yes.
has it been completed?
We have begun it. It has not yet been completed.
Okay, is there a public notice? I'm guessing there's a public note. Does the state require a public notice in that case? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, again, not the air quality expert, so I
all right.
apologize.
So it's really
I don't know
just
exactly.
the operator with the water quality, or with air quality. I apologize. I deal with water quality quite often, which is a little bit different. But so you're in the middle of that. You're in the process right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the actual power plant itself, I think it's awesome. It's coming here. Like we mentioned, we need a lot of power, and if they're able to self-generate power, I think that's great. It doesn't require Rocky Mountain Power to build the lines, to maintain them, and all that stuff, so I think that's awesome. And our economic developer, Evan, has talked about how any power generated in the city that's sold, we get taxed on that as well, which is good. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Mark?
it's on the sale or use, right? So it's a sale and use tax, so it's a 6% municipal energy tax. Our agreement essentially is they're gonna pay that based on what Rocky Mountain Power would have charged them had they actually been able to provide the power. So that is, you know, for 286 megawatts, I think we're talking in the neighborhood of somewhere between $7 to $10 million in the general fund, which, you know, is about, you know, roughly a, 25 to 30% increase in our general fund as it stands today, just from that power plant.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. Again, if we have these data centers self-generate power, that's great. And it's awesome. That helps alleviate that concern. And in terms of air quality, that's something I think I need to look into a little bit more too. But I think in Utah in general, we're very conscious about air quality because of the inversions. We're trying to get better at it. So I'm hoping that the state is more on that, but I need, again, dive into a little more. It is interesting, yeah, about the EPA backing off. That is, but at least the state is monitoring it. So that's good. Okay, Commissioner Hess.
Okay, Marcus, I'd like to ask a couple questions with 5.8, okay? Because, and I want to read it to make sure I understand. This is my only concern, is either me not understanding how they can add or purchase land. So it says, this agreement is hereby adopted and approved by the city to apply to real property within the municipal limits of the city that is adjacent and contiguous to the generation property. So you had mentioned is adjacent and contiguous, meaning there's no roadway, no easements?
So, I mean,
Okay.
roadways
'Cause I
wouldn't
see
count
that.
in that determination. So let's throw a hypothetical out there. Say Tract, which is across Pony Express Parkway, from them, begins construction and they want Williams to provide power for them as well. And it's completely hypothetical, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Could they go across the street and annex that into it? Yeah, they could. It would be governed by the exact same terms. And that one's already RTI zoned, it's the same thing, it's data center property. So it would really just be about, do we want to, is that, if it's okay for, the staging agreement.
Okay.
Don't think it's a huge deal to include it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm open to change the language to match what our kind of recent language has been. So to clarify that it has to be something with the RTI zoning, so that's going to limit it to, by and large, to the data centers.
Okay, because of course it's conditional on the adjacency or contiguous, which we include there as adjacent opposite of the roadway. But then there's the condition that they can purchase property in the future, right? And as long as those parcels are still adjacent and contiguous, even though they don't own them now, but in 5 years, 10 years, they could purchase the property opposite of the road, adjacent to them. And now, the question I have, does it just become, they have to do an ordinance change at that
Yeah, so and that's
time?
what the current language with the more, like, kind of like the tract agreement
Yeah.
or some of these other more recent agreements that we've done. That's what the language says, essentially requires them to come back for, if it's not already zoned with the RTI, and RTI, specifically allows the data centers. So we could add language saying if it doesn't specifically allow in their development agreement or through zoning, the use of a natural gas power plant, they have to come back and ask for that permission, but assuming that they can get that, then they could annex in. So I'm open to adding that language. I think that was a bit of an oversight.
Yeah.
So.
And it would not require a new agreement. It would just be,
Right, it would just require them to get something, either through zoning or through a new agreement or through an amendment to the existing agreement to allow that additional property to have natural gas power plant as a use.
okay. And so how, in relation to like an MDA with a residential development, is this language similar to something that you would see, for example, with our, what's the big one?
So we have language
like, do you have language like that? Like, if they come with an MDA and, hey, we have 1,000 acres.
So we have language like that in the Firefly agreement.
Firefly.
Specifically. Now that one says that if they want to come in and they want to do industrial or commercial, they can just annex it in if it's adjacent. And if they want to do additional residential, then they have to come back for a rezone. That's how the language works in that. So that's similar to what we kind of been talking about, altering the language to be.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I guess for the commission too, I mean, there have been suggestions of tabling just for the air quality, or we could just send it on to city council as well, and then with the suggestion that they come ready to talk to air quality to the city council. Ultimately, they're the decision makers on that anyway. So I guess it depends how strongly we feel about coming back here for us, or we can move it on to city council again with the expectation that they come ready to speak of that air quality concern.
Well, I would suspect that this is contingent on them approving getting their permit from the Division of Air Quality. So that is the regulatory authority for this facility, and this happens on a lot of other projects where of course, if they can't get it, then they wouldn't be permitted in the state of Utah at this location. And so I think that's obviously it's not spelled out all the specifics in the agreement, but the regulation is in place that governs their operation from a state law standpoint.
Correct, and I was saying more from the concern of like addressing public's concerns on that, because you're right, yeah, the state agency, they'll handle it.
I would just also like to note that it is already permitted on the site to build a natural gas power plant to facilitate the data center primary use. So even if you were to say we're recommending against and we didn't do this development agreement, they could still build a natural gas power plant, assuming they could get all the permitting from the state.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to forward are we making a recommendation here? Making a positive recommendation to City Council on this agenda item.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hess, second by Commissioner DeCoursey to forward a positive recommendation to City Council for item 7A. Any to clarify? Okay, I think we're on Commissioner DeCoursey.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Lane?
No.
Commissioner Allen is a yes. That passes 3-1. Anything you want to say on the no vote, Commissioner Lane?
Nope, I just wanted on the record that I voted no.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's typically what we'll do if someone votes contrary, we give them time if they would like to expand on that. So, okay, that concludes our action advisory items for the evening. Our next scheduled meeting will be on March 10th. Anyone know if they'll be out of town? Okay, perfect. Then does anyone have anything else they want to bring up? Just a reminder, next time we'll vote on chair and vice chair. Hopefully everyone will be here, and yeah, should be it. Okay, I'll entertain a final motion.
Make motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Hess, second by Commissioner Lane to adjourn. Do a voice call vote. All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay, it's 4-0, we're adjourned. Thanks.